All right, let's talk about getting smarter. Have you ever felt like it's this huge, impossibly complicated thing? Well, today we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to break down a simple, really powerful way of thinking about it that actually works. So, let's get into it. I mean, we've all been there, right? You decide you want to learn something new, maybe a skill or understand a tough subject. But then you look at all the advice out there and it's just completely overwhelming. You start to wonder, is it actually supposed to be this difficult?
So to figure out what works, let's first look at what doesn't. There are basically two main roads people take when they try to get smarter. And honestly, they usually lead to a dead end.
On the one hand, you've got the traditional path. Decades of school, it's super long, it can be crazy expensive. And on the other hand, you have the internet's favorite quick fixes, the brain hacks. Eat blueberries, drink coffee, do a Sudoku puzzle. And look, some of that stuff is fine, but it's not going to get to the core of actually building real knowledge. And that's really the heart of the problem, isn't it? The advice you get is either this big philosophical idea like be curious, which is great, but what do you do with that? Or it's so basic, like eating blueberries, that it's never going to teach you how to code or understand history. There's this huge gap right in the middle, and that's where we need to be. So, if those old paths are no good, where do we actually start? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. It all begins with reading. But, and this is a huge but, we're not talking about just letting your eyes glaze over a page. We're talking about active reading. Reading is seriously the #1 tool for growing your mind. Fiction is amazing. It's like a workout for your vocabulary and reading speed. But nonfiction, that's where you load up your brain with fascinating facts and ideas. The real trick, though, isn't just what you know, it's all about how you share that knowledge with other people. Oh, man, we've all met this person, right? The well-actually guy. They learn one new fact and they are just waiting for the chance to jump in and correct someone. They might be 100% right, but the delivery is just not great. So here's the thing you have to remember. Dropping a well-actually into a conversation is a social killer. It immediately puts the other person on the defensive, makes them feel dumb, and kind of makes you seem like a know-it-all. It's not about what you know, it's about how you share it.
Now check out this alternative. This is completely different. It's collaborative. You're not correcting them. You're inviting them to discover something cool with you. You're basically saying, hey, I found this interesting thing. Let's look at it together.
And that is the secret. You're teaching without making the other person feel ignorant. When you do that, people don't just learn from you, they start to see you as someone who's not just smart, but also humble and interesting to talk to. It changes everything. Okay, so reading is step one. Huge, but it's only half the battle. If you read a book and forget it all a week later, what was the point? The most important part is making that new knowledge actually stick around. This is a fundamental rule of how our minds work. Your brain is a super efficient machine. If you learn something but you never use it, your brain flags it as useless information and just deletes it to make room. Practice is the signal you send your brain that says, hey, this is important. Keep this file. And here's the good news. You don't need thousands of hours of practice to see a difference. The learning curve is steepest right at the very beginning. You really only need to learn about 20% of something to get about 80% of the skill down. Think about that. A little bit of focused, active practice at the start gives you these massive, massive returns. The key there is that it has to be active. I mean, this says it all, right? You can watch a million videos on how to tie a tie, but you won't learn a thing until you've got that tie in your hands, fumbling and twisting it yourself. Learning is a physical act. So what do you do when you can't physically practice something? This is where mental simulation becomes your superpower. Let's say you read How to Jumpstart a Car. You can practice that right now in your chair. Just close your eyes. Picture it. It's a cold, dark night. Your car is dead. You open the hood. You identify the battery terminals. You connect the red cable here, then the other red cable. By vividly walking through it, you're tricking your brain into thinking it's done it before. You're creating a memory of an action. And this idea, this power of simulation, is the secret engine behind a lot of the learning tools we already know, even the ones we think we hate. Seriously, think about it. Why do schools give tests? A test is just an artificial,
high-stakes scenario where that random date from history suddenly becomes incredibly useful. It forces your brain to retrieve it. The only problem is, as soon as that test is over, the information is no longer useful and, poof, the brain lets it go. And this is exactly why textbooks are actually an S-tier, top-level tool for learning something fast. I know, nobody loves them, but they are built for this exact process. They cut out all the fluff, give you pure condensed information, and then immediately follow it with practice questions. Every single one of those questions is a mini simulation, forcing you to apply what you just read.
So it really all comes down to this one idea. Real, lasting learning isn't about brain food or a fancy degree. It's a simple two-step process. Take in new information and then immediately find a way to apply it, either in the real world or just by simulating it in your mind, to signal to your brain that this knowledge matters.
So the question you should be asking isn't, how do I get smart? It's, what's the first thing I want to learn, and how can I practice it right now? So think about it. What's one skill you've been wanting to pick up? Today's the day to not just read about it, but to actually go and make it useful.